salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back, and thank you for spending some time with me. It is Tuesday, so that means Week 6 review is on deck. I'm going to go over every single game from Thursday all the way to Sunday, talk about some of the key points, things that we learned from these games that we can take as far as information moving forward, how we can make better decisions because of it. But before we get into it, if you would not mind hitting that like button for me, it would mean a bunch. And also subscribing to the channel helps me out. We saw a massive boom last week after I dropped that buy sell video. So let's keep that momentum. We're about 60 subs away from getting to our goal of 500. You can be a part of that by helping me out. So please consider it. With all of the content I am putting out, I really haven't had time to just do a straight up relentless rundown on a game or two. And honestly, I think that this is the relentless rundown all rolled into one. So with that out of the way, let's hop into this relentless rundown. We'll start with the Thursday night game. The Commanders tame the Bears 12-7. Honestly, the last 2 weeks have made me question if we really need football on Thursdays. It has been that terrible to watch, but football is football, I guess. So we'll take it. Brian Robinson is the guy for the Commanders. That's the biggest thing that we learned and can take away from this game. He had 17 carries. Antonio Gibson had just 5. They wanted Robinson to be the guy in the important situations and getting the majority of the work. So he's on my waiver wire video. But if you have the option of picking him up, he's available in like half a leagues somehow. Not sure how. That is a thing, but go get him if he is there, because he's going to be, at worst, a flex play, and maybe on some better weeks where the matchup is right, he could sneak into the RB2 land. The other thing we learned from the Bears, and I thought more or less that it was Justin Fields struggling because of the offensive line. We cannot put what he is doing all on that O-line. Justin Fields had guys running open multiple times where he just did not see them, didn't trust the throw, whatever it may be. So part of that blame is now starting to fall for me on Justin Fields. The rushing has helped him, but his passing work has been so brutal. So Justin Fields gets a little bit of a knock from me because of this game. We're gonna move to the Rams game. They declaw the Panthers 24-10. Just as I expected, the Panthers offense did in fact get worse without Baker Mayfield. Who would have thunk? PJ Walker, 10 out of 16 for a whopping 60 passing yards in this one. Not gonna panic on CMC, but I mentioned it last week. Might be a good time to sell him if you can get obviously only an elite option coming back to you, because I just think that the ceiling for CMC is so extremely capped in this offense. Clearly that doesn't look like it's going away. Maybe you could put out some feelers, see what you can pull for him. As far as the Rams, the running game is going to be all Henderson for at least now. We're not exactly sure what's going on with Cam Akers. Kyron Williams has to be on our radar right now because of the Cam Akers situation. Williams should return from IR pretty soon. If you have Henderson and or an extra roster spot, get Williams on your roster. There are worse cuffs that you could have out there. And then maybe bigger news, Allen Robinson exists. He had a really decent game here. Finally, for the first time this season, he got 5 of his 6 targets, scored a touchdown, 60 plus yards. Love that if you're an owner and you still held on to him. To the Falcons game, they were able to manhandle the 49ers in what turned out to be a surprise that maybe we should have all seen coming. Mariota was able to take advantage of a really banged up 49ers defense. And to be clear, that is why he decided to ball out in this game with all of those injuries. But he did restore some faith that he can produce for us and gets back into that quarterback to kind of mid-range if you are in super flex. The 49ers showed us that they are a completely different and somewhat inept team when they cannot play football the way that they want to. If they get behind and have to throw like they did in this game, nothing works the way that it's supposed to. We saw Jeff Wilson struggle mightily. Now Debo did all right, and so did Kittle, and a huge game from Brandon Ayuk. So you love it from the pass catching standpoint, but just as an overall football standpoint, the 49ers look horrible, especially in this game when they have to come from behind. Moving on to the Patriots game. They were able to crush the Browns in this one, 38-15. Could there potentially be a quarterback controversy going on in New England? Bailey Zappi looks the part. He went for 300 plus in this one with a pair of scores. He's undefeated, 2-0, and the Patriots offense just looks better with him at the helm. We knew the big day that Stevenson was gonna have. He did roll out 76 yards on the ground and a pair of scores as the workhorse there. And for the first time this year, Nick Chubb was bottled up, could not get anything going. I am not worried about it. It was the game script in this one that absolutely murdered his chances. And finally, should have seen this coming too, Jacoby Brissett came back down to earth. Did not look great in this big loss. The Jets, in one of my favorite games of the entire weekend, embarrassed the Packers 27-10 in Lambeau, may I add. Breece Hall, talked about him 3 weeks ago, begged you guys to go make a move for him. And what is he doing now? He may be in RB1 from here on out if he can continue to see this workload. And the Jets defense, the best thing about this is that the Jets defense, with all of those young players, all the investments that they made, they look the part. And if the Jets defense can hold up their end of the bargain, that means that there's going to be plenty of opportunities for Breece Hall. Clearly, he can take advantage. He went for 20 carries, $116, and a score in this one. I think it is sustainable if the Jets defense can continue to do what they've done over the last 3 weeks. For the Packers, the Packers. Their plan is not working. It was very clear that that was the case. Their defense is not helping the offense in any way, shape, or form. They've given up, I think, 24, 27, and 27 over the last 3 weeks, so not what we expected. I thought the Packers had a chance to be top 5, easy top 10. That has not materialized. It could be a bumpy ride for owners for the next couple of weeks, and maybe more, depending on how long it takes the Packers offense to figure it out. For the Colts, they are able to outlast the Jags in a shootout. It was 34-27. The Jaguars, guys, they are who we thought they were when the season started. It was nice while it lasted. It looks like it's over. Jacksonville crumbles once again. However, good silver lining for the Jaguars is that Travis Etienne once again showed that he's the better back. So if you bought him, like I suggested in that buy sell, his stock is going up. He had 100 plus yards in this one and on just 12 touches, might I add. So I think Jacksonville is going to have their hand forced to give the ball to him more and more. He was clearly the better, more efficient back once again. Sorry, J-Rob owners, maybe your time has passed. For the Colts, when Matt Ryan is doing his thing, and he certainly was in this game, I think he almost threw for 403 touchdowns. This Colts offense can make anyone elite. I mean, we had Deion Jackson, who I didn't even know about before the game, and after obviously the injury to Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, he went and had himself a day, over 100 yards of total offense. Even without Jonathan Taylor, they just moved the ball over to the passing game a little more. 10 receptions for Deion Jackson. Michael Pittman balled out, 16 targets, 13 catches, 134 yards. And Alec Pierce, who I had on the waiver wire ads last week, had himself a good day as well, scoring a touchdown. Love to see it out of the Colts. I don't think we can trust it consistently, but it's great to see that ceiling. For the Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings, they hold off the Dolphins in what was a nail biter and is beginning to become a trend. 4 games in a row where we've had to come back. Now, we are able to hold on here, and I love it. Don't love the way we did it, but we're 5-1 going into the bye, and I will take it. Now I will talk about the fantasy side of things. The offense is more boom or bust than I would like, because there's a ton of 3-and-outs from this Viking offense. They're on pace to do it more this year than they were last year. But the key guys are going to get theirs more often than not. So if you're Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Thielen has been coming on strong as well. More often than not, those guys are going to produce. You play your wideouts against the Vikings too. So if we're looking at the Miami Dolphins and what their 2 wide receivers did, we knew that Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill would probably have big days. That was not the half of it. 25 targets, 18 catches, over 300 yards receiving between them. They did anything and everything they wanted, and Minnesota basically let them do it underneath. stopping that over-the-top action. They paid for it. Still got the win, though. Do not fall for the Mike Gesicki breakout here. The 2 touchdowns is great for him. It's nice to see him get some work in the passing game because he does have the talent. But he is not going to be doing this very often. He's still more of a blocker in this scheme than anything else. So do not chase the points next week if Gesicki is available on your wire. Now on to the Bengals game. They were able to beat the Saints in a close one. Everybody got a slice for Cincy in this one. Joe Burrow had the best game that he's had all season, throwing for 303 touchdowns. And we knew that it was coming. I didn't know it was coming so quick, so I hope you listen and bought Ja'Marr Chase prior to this game because he absolutely exploded. A pair of touchdowns, a $130 plus. And that 60-yard touchdown was just pure athleticism, will, and ability. He is now back where he belonged all along in that elite wide receiver 1 range. The Saints passing game was lifeless here. They didn't have Chris Olave. They didn't have Michael Thomas. I am not chasing the points with Traquan Smith. Kamara got his 25 touches, a $124. Wasn't able to find the end zone. And with that lack of balance in the Saints offense, it was just not enough. And I think something else that came out of this is that I didn't really buy it early on, but the Saints defense, we might need to take a step back and reevaluate because they have been getting crushed over the last couple weeks. I thought the Seattle game was a facade. This game made it seem like maybe not so much. So they take a step down for me. The Giants survived the Ravens. Daniel Jones keeps producing, even though it is ugly. The floor makes him worth a start during buys in Superflex for sure, and he's probably going to be the top pickup option this week on the waiver wire. And the Vikings are on bye, the Eagles, the Rams, and the Bills all are going to be off this week. That's 4 quarterbacks that are usually started. So if you need one, Daniel Jones might be the perfect play. The Giants get the Jags, the Seahawks, the Texans, and the Lions over the next 5 weeks. They have a bye sprinkled in there. So Jones could be viable as a QB2 for the next month plus. J.K. Dobbins' knee acts up, and that kills owners, and in comes Kenyon Drake to save the day. I'm not sure it is a full-on takeover, but he has to be now rostered in every league, because if he is even the 1B in this offense, he is going to have value. 110 yards on the ground on just 10 carries in relief for Drake. The Steelers, in the shock of the weekend, overtake the Bucks 20-18. The Bucks were able to move the ball fine in this game. There was no problem going between the 20s. The issue was they could not find a way to get it in the end zone. 1 for 4 in the red zone overall. The offensive line remains a concern for the Bucks. It was their biggest issue here once again. I am not going to panic on Tampa Bay, even though they're 3-3, and we've seen some ups and downs as far as their playmakers are concerned. They will be fine, but it is far from ideal right now there. For the Steelers, this possibly opens up a sell-high opportunity for Najee Harris. He finally got in the end zone, but he did it on 14 carries for 42 yards, just 3 yards a carry, so it's going to be more of the same for him there. And he only had 7 yards on his 2 catches. So the yardage wasn't there. The touchdown was. I am listening to offers if I am a Harris owner. I'm not going to give him away, but if you can get a decent RB2 that you like with a little more upside, Harris might be a sell candidate for me. The Seahawks ground the Cardinals, and even though Geno Smith did not look great, he still produced, and he showed us a little bit of rushing upside as well with nearly 50 yards on the ground. Ken Walker had himself a monster day here. Looks like that is just getting started. 21 carries, 97 yards, and a score. If you were able to get him off of waivers, good on you. He should ball out as at least an RB2 moving forward. And the bad news coming out of Arizona, Marquise Brown potentially out for the year with a foot injury. Nuke is going to step into a massive workload now that he's coming back from suspension. And if you need a wide receiver that could put up some points for you in the coming weeks, Rondale Moore now becomes extremely attractive. He's had back-to-back games with 10 targets, back-to-back games with a 20% or more target share as well. This is a guy that he's going to see looks. He is dangerous with the ball in his hands. Definitely worth a roster spot. The Bills are able to get revenge on the Chiefs, and we have to think, is Devin Singletary potentially a buy low option after this game? He had 17 carries, he had 4 receptions. When he is involved at this level, it's really hard not to find a way to get him in our lineups. Now, he's going to have peaks and valleys because we don't know week in and week out, which makes it hard on us as owners, but you are going to take that in this offense. CEH falls flat for the second straight week. He saw 9 touches. We saw Isaiah Pacheco get 4. We saw 5 for Jerick McKinnon. So clearly they like him, but not a ton. He is going to remain a touchdown upside play without a big workload. You can decide what that is worth to you. I might still be selling him if the right offer comes along. And then for the wide receiver core, Juju Smith-Schuster finally works out. I called him as a flex play because of the matchup, and he hit big here. 113 yards and a score for the Chiefs. If you aren't starting Travis Kelce and you're looking for a pass catcher, it is Juju or basically no one right now for the Chiefs. Which brings us to the last game, Sunday night, Eagles smacking the Cowboys. Zeke did show some life for us. I am still, however, selling him. I think this is only going to provide us with an opportunity to get a little bit more out of him. I am taking it if I can. I am not a believer because of his low efficiency. I will admit, he looked better than I thought he was going to, but at the end of the day, I'm a Tony Pollard believer. And then in the Philly wide receiver room, can A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith actually coexist? We hadn't seen it so much so far this season, but this is the reason when we're talking about a flex play, Devonta Smith needs to be in the conversation. Philly's offense is good enough to support multiple pass catchers. Sometimes that means it's going to be Dallas Goedert, but a lot of times it means it's going to be one of these receivers and now maybe both of them. Finally, I would say that it was just great to see, if you are an owner of a Philadelphia Eagle playmaker, them do this against an elite defense. Dallas had been playing lights out as one of the best defenses in the league over the last 3 weeks, and they put on a show in this game. And that is everything for the week in review. Hope you guys got some useful information that you can pull from it and use moving forward. Drop some questions down below for me. I love to be able to answer and help you out. I get back to every question I receive. I got a ton of them this weekend and absolutely loved it, so let's keep it up in that regard. Make sure you keep an eye out for all the great content that I am dropping. Relentless Press has something Monday to Saturday at 12 p.m. Pacific coming out. Make sure you crush that like button for me. It helps a ton. And subscribe to the channel as well. I greatly appreciate all the support that I have gotten thus far. To all my current subscribers, both old and new, could not and would not do it without you guys, so thank you very much. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham Opatz, and I will see you next time.